Hey everyone, FusedVR coming at ya, and today, super excited to share the Tilt Brush SDK with you guys. And this is something I've been meaning to throw on the channel for a long time, and so I'm finally excited that we're able to do this. So, you can see right here, I'm in play mode, and we have our logo that I quickly sketched up, and it's running here, animated with the fire texture. And this is all built in as part of the Tilt Brush SDK. So in this video, we're just going to explore how you can get this set up, and then some of the other things that Google has provided as part of this package. And I think it's a really cool way to actually experiment and prototype, really in a way that looks actually a bit more elegant than using simple primitives. So with that, let's get started. Alright, so I just popped into Tilt Brush, and I figured let's just make a really quick sketch that we can then bring into Unity. So to start this off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to Fire. So one thing to point out is when you're actually building your sketch, not everything imports in. And I'll show you how you can find that out in just a minute. But I'm just going to use Fire for now because we know that that one works. And just switch it to our color approximately. And then just go ahead and draw our logo. So we go, kind of like drawing it a little big, and you can use the scale tool to make it a little easier to draw at the right scale. And because as I'm sure you guys all know, scale is super important in VR. Got to talk about human scale. There we go. So that looks about right. We can, if we want, we can take a picture. But what I'm going to show you guys is if you go to More, go to Labs. Now, of course, it pops up right there. And then you have a few tools here, so you can get chat, whatever. But I'm just going to go ahead and hit export. That, depending on how big your scene is, that could take a long time. This one took a pretty normal amount of time there. And with that, we should be good to go. Alright, now that I'm out of Tilt Brush, let's find out where our exports file is. So if you go to your Documents folder, there should be a Tilt Brush folder there, and then Exports. And then this is where it's going to save everything. So you can see our Untitled folder, which is from the intro. And then Untitled 0 is the one we just created. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just rename this thing to Logo, just so that we can differentiate it for ourselves. And then if we look in here, you'll see that there's a PNG file, which is our texture. You can see that there's the FBX file, which contains our model. And then there's this Visual Studio's code file. Now, I'm not really sure what this file is for. If my guess, if you can go ahead and open this up, what you'll see is, it effectively kind of looks like an OBJ file, but there's these weird, I guess, hashes almost. I'm not really sure what I'd call them. But I'd imagine this is something that Tilt Brush uses to actually go in and use your I guess your FBX file and then recreate that back in Tilt Brush. So that might be what this is for. I'm not really sure, but something to keep in mind. But these are the three files. You really only need these two right there. And the other thing you'll need is if you Google for the Tilt Brush Toolkit, and this is under Google VR on GitHub. It's open source, which is really cool. You'll see the README for it and how to actually go about using this thing. And it's actually really simple, and I'm going to go ahead and show that for you guys. So what you need to do is scroll down here. You'll see click here to download the latest version for the Tilt Brush Unity SDK. I've already gone ahead and done that, but you'll need to do that if this is your first time using it. And once you do that, just go ahead and open up Unity. So I'm going to go ahead and hit New. Let's just say Tilt Video. Go ahead and create project. Give that a second. And so yeah, so the neat part here is you don't really need to use VR to test this part out. You can build stuff in VR and then actually use that in a non-VR game. So that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna go ahead, go back to our exports and go into downloads. So right here you can see I have the Tilt Brush SDK already saved. Let's go ahead, drag that in. So this takes a minute to import. It's just a standard import process. So I'm going to cut here, and then I'll join you guys in a bit. Alright, so that just finished up. And basically now all we really need to do is take our model and then drag that in. So I have my exports folder here, and then we have the logo. I'm just going to drag that in. It comes in as a folder to Unity. And it just imports perfectly like that. So you can actually see here that there's obviously an editor script that they built that allows this to actually work. So, I mean, there's nothing that you can do here right now, but really all you need to do is just drag this in, and I'm going to go ahead and rotate it so that you can actually see it in play mode. And yeah, I mean, you can see that the animation's working and everything. So it's a really simple process to actually use the SDK. So that I could end the tutorial here, but there is one more thing that I wanted to show, which is that you actually go to the examples, and you can also read about this on the GitHub, but I wanted to show this here. And we don't have to save this. Not that one, this one. So this is actually, so for when they launched the SDK, they made this trailer using basically the scene. So it's really cool that they brought this in. And I'll just hit play. And what you'll see here is it animates through a few different frames. And I'll walk you through how to do this. It's actually really easy and kind of cool how they did it. You can do this for pretty much anything. The code they wrote doesn't just apply to Tilt Brush, which is kind of cool. So we're going to augment this up a little bit. But yeah, so it basically just loops through these frames. And the reason I say frames as opposed to like adding stuff to the scene is because it's literally, so you can see here in the hierarchy we have 11 frames. And I can enable each one, and each one has all of the animations and it building on top of itself. So and if we go to frame 4, you'll see it just has brush. So that's basically the way they've implemented it, as a total of 11 frames, and then they have a sequence here that basically allows you to specify what those frames are and then put them in a certain order. So you can see here, it do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 9, and then 1 to 11, and then oscillates between the two until you hit the empty one, and then it loops again. So we're going to change this, but before we do that, I also wanted to take a note that there's a prefab in the Tilt Brush folder that's called, so actually here in Tilt Brush, and it's called the Audio Reactive, and this is what's going to let you play your own audio source. So you can see that they have an audio source right here. They just specify the beat, they added some reverb to it. And this thing is what's really going to let you actually play your own music and have the whole scene interact with it. So I think that's a really cool component of it, and this is built into the SDK as well, so you can dive a little deeper into that if you want to. So to wrap this up, I just want to quickly edit the scene file, or the sequence file. So what I'm going to do is just duplicate 11, and I'm going to enable it here, make this 12, and for just simplicity, what I'm going to do, instead of just drawing something, I'm going to go ahead and add a particle system, just to show that it doesn't have to be a tilt file, it can be anything. Now let's just go ahead and rotate that for like this, about like 90. Let's just drag it up a little bit. And nice. So obviously you can tweak this particle effect however much you want, but we have the gist of that there. So once we do, I'm just going to disable it, go into sequence here. Now, so it's oscillating back and forth, and what I'm just going to do is drag frame 12 down into the bottom, and let's see if this works. Awesome. So you can just hit the plus and up and down arrows here to move your certain frames to wherever you want. When I was trying this before, it wasn't working, but I guess it's working now, which is cool. So if it isn't, you can also, the X always seems to work, so that's not a huge deal. So what I'm going to do is just move this up. Let's move it up to probably the beginning, or actually no, like somewhere here. And what I'll do is I'll repeat it for like 5 frames. And so now if we hit play, you can see it goes through each frame. And you can also specify if you want it by time or on every beat, which I think is a really cool component to this. So it builds up on the beat with the toolkit, and there it is. Now you'll notice that it's actually like literally repeating the frame, which causes that flickering. So that might be something you want to tweak, but the gist of it is kind of there. So, and again, this is also open source, so that's really cool. And yeah, that's pretty much the Tilt Brush SDK. I think it's a really good way to actually prototype stuff instead of just using cubes and cylinders and spheres. You have a little more flexibility on it. Let me know in the comments if you want to see something using this, maybe a stream on this or something else. And alternatively, if you want to see this in Medium, I think Medium's kind of cool in the sense that because you're sculpting, you actually get a full like embodied 3D object, which is kind of nice to actually put into scenes, and then it kind of feels like it belongs. Whereas a lot of the stuff in Tilt Brush is kind of 2D. And yeah, if you do us a favor and like this video and comment below, that helps us out a lot. And you can also follow us on social. So with that, this has been FusedMan. I'm signing out.